Let's start it back up here. And then they can see you pull up from there. So awesome. All right, everyone. We are going to get going. I'll try to introduce myself and learn more about how this whole airspace works and the things you need to know keep in mind when you're doing any type of adding to the airspace.
Hi, I'm Sally Hunter with DEQ. Heather said it earlier, Tammy and I are the air quality regulators, which no one loves that word, but that's who we are. I specifically, Tammy works in our crop residue burning program. So if any of you are involved in any crop residue stuff, Tammy's the go-to. And then I'm involved in all of the prescribed fire stuff, both with, well, just general helping build up our program, but then also with, if any of you are part of the Montana Idaho Airshed group, I'm helping make that burn decision for those guys. All right. Well, the presser thing didn't work.
And then
okay. So I'm gonna go over smoke. Well, like smoke 101, Heather over weather, fire weather 101. I'm gonna go over can I burn? So a little bit on like regulation stuff, and then like should I burn, right? I never took the word slide off my template. Hide the controls. Oh, hide. So, I mean, why should you care about smoke? This is a difficult one. We all don't mind it when it's around a campfire or, you know, something that's fun, but ultimately smoke is air pollution. It has serious health impacts. You know, it's as little as makes you cough a little, makes your eyes a little irritated, all the way to death. I mean, in reality, there are 1,800, 2,000 people across the country every year that die from smoke effects from wildfires and smoke inhalation. So children, elderly, people with any cardiovascular or respiratory diseases, they're all at a higher risk. The children one is actually, I think, not cute, but they're literally like their lungs are tiny, so they breathe more often. And that's why they're part of why they're more at risk, because they're literally just breathing so much. Athletes, similarly, if you're out there, you're doing really strenuous exercise out in smoky conditions, you're just breathing so much more, you're just getting so much more of that smoke in you. So that's the main reason we want to worry about smoke, or that's the more personal reason. It's also air pollution, you know, just in general, you're impacting other people. And air pollution, of course, is regulated. So the Clean Air Act, big act, it's had several amendments, but ultimately what you probably need to know is that it established the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, which is a really long word, and we all just say NAAQS. There are several pollutants that it covers, but for our purposes, what we're mostly concerned about is this PM 2.5. PM 2.5 means particulate matter 2.5. 2.5 is referencing microns. They're so tiny. Gosh, what's the number? It's like a strand of hair is like 30 microns wide. So that's how tiny a 2.5 micron particle is. It's so itty bitty, easy to suck into your lungs, of course. And then from your lungs, it can pass into the bloodstream and cause problems. So that's the main smoke pollutant we're worried about. This is the daily standard. The daily standard, so part of that NAAQS is that we have two standards that we talk about. One is the daily standard. In any 24-hour period, we should not get more than an average of any hour. Boy, that's confusing. Take each hour of the day, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, et cetera, et cetera. Those numbers are going to go up and down. Maybe it's 50 1 hour, maybe it's 10 the next hour. Average all those hours in that 24-hour day, we shouldn't be above 35 micrograms. That's the health standard they've set that starts to cause problems. Now, in addition to the daily standard, the one that's a little harder to wrap your head around is the annual standard. Take all those daily averages, then average those out for the course of the year. And in general, over the course of the year, we should not be at above 9 micrograms per meter cubed. That one's a little harder to wrap your brain around because it's an everyday thing. So it's really hard from like a regulatory standpoint, trying to figure out, well, this day was 35 and this day was 15 and this day was 8 and we had a whole summer of around 10 and a spring of 7. So how is this one day going to impact that overall average for the year? So we really mostly in terms of making burn decisions, we stick to this daily 24-hour standard. That's the much easier one to kind of wrap your brain around about whether you're going to impact today's or tomorrow's standards. Once the Clean Air Act established those NAAQS, they put it on the states to maintain and achieve those standards. So state meaning, in this case, the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. We are tasked with how will Idaho as a whole achieve and then maintain those standards. And for your purposes, for prescribed fire purposes, we do that through state smoke management plans developed by or with DEQ to hopefully minimize those smoke impacts. There's other ways. There's air quality permitting, there's the crop residue program, there's other things. But within the prescribed fire world, it's smoke management plans. I'm not going to get into the very long process of the last several years of trying to develop a statewide smoke management plan. This is coming down to more of a, not individual, it is, I'm not going to get into that. Point is, smoke management plans are how we're helping minimize those smoke impacts. What happens if we don't meet the standards, right? So every year we have to give our data to the EPA. They look at all these conditions. They decide whether things are problems or not. And if an area does not meet standards, that's called non-attainment. If an area goes into non-attainment, then now we're tasked with bringing that area back into attainment. How do we make that air safe for people again? There are a lot of ways to do that. It's a county or a city burden, so they do emission standards for like your cars, or there might be wood stove changeouts, voluntary curtailment. So if you have a wood stove, maybe we're going to voluntarily ask you on this day, this day, and this day that you don't use it or use an alternative heating source. It impacts businesses. So if the area is in non-attainment or the air quality is at such a level, if a business goes to apply for a permit and they can't show that their business will not, so this is the level for the air quality, and adding their business's pollution is going to put us over that level, they don't get a permit. We can't put more businesses out there that are going to decrease our air quality beyond that national air quality standard. So how do we do that? Well, we have to try and reduce all of the pollution that we can. Industry already has permitting. We already do that. We don't give them a permit if we can't. The ag burning community, very regulated. They've got a very robust program that involves daily burn decisions for every farmer in Idaho that wants to burn. We've already upgraded the wood stoves in most of the state. We've already gone through a lot of programs through that. And you can see that after wildfire, prescribed fire is the biggest contributor to air pollution in Idaho. So if we don't meet those standards, you know, what happens? I don't really have the answer. This is where we started rulemaking several years ago, try and get to that answer. We did not ultimately go through with rulemaking. We're working with IDL to make a program that'll hopefully help keep those prescribed fire impacts at a minimum. Of course, with fire, there's going to be smoke. We recognize that. It's not that you can eliminate it entirely, but we have to find a way still to meet those standards. All right, smoke. Boy, I wish I could see my other slides. So for you in your daily business, smoke is also an indicator. It's another reason you should worry about smoke. Like we've already talked about, is your fuel too wet? Is your fuel too large? Weather isn't allowing dispersion or inversions. In this state, we have so many valleys, so many mountains. There are just inversions all the time. We have daily, almost daily, temperature inversions. This picture here, that's actually, you know, smokestack and it covered up with fire. The point I'm trying to make there is you can see where that inversion has set in and smoke is not dispersing anymore. So now all of that smoke is going to settle back down in the valley where it's impacting all the people. No. All right. So can I burn? This is the regulatory, regulatory stuff. I do want to make the point. We have been told as air quality regulators, stay in your lane. And so I want to make it clear that from an air regulatory standpoint, I am not making any burn decisions on fire safety. I am not making any decisions on land management goals. I am strictly making a burn decision, like for the airshed group, or when I'm talking to other people, strictly based on air quality regulations. Is this going to impact air quality? These often don't overlap very well. The best burning conditions for fire safety reasons are not always going to overlap with the best burning conditions for air quality, and that can really be difficult to find that happy medium where everybody's getting what they need done. Okay, so we have two main buckets, if you will, of burners in Idaho. We have our non-industrial private forest owners that Heather was talking about earlier. These, in my world, we would call them non-airshed group members. They're not part of that formalized Montana-Idaho airshed group. So for these folks, there are not a lot of regulations when it comes to air quality stuff. But in that should you burn or can I burn, sorry, you're going to be checking your fire safety restrictions. You know, is it, are we in that closed burn season? If it's in that closed burn season and you're trying to get a permit, can you get one? You're going to look for air quality restrictions. So we hear this actually surprisingly a lot, that people say they didn't realize we have what's called an air quality advisory, that when an air quality advisory is put out, it's not just telling you that air quality isn't great. It's actually also a burn ban. It is a state rule that when we have an air quality advisory in an area, it bans all outdoor burning. So that's prescribed fire. It would ban Tammy's crop residue burning. So it's not just telling you about those health effects. Also, for today, don't burn prohibited materials. The only thing that you should be burning are natural vegetative materials. In the future, this is getting to that IDL piece. You will also be needing to follow this burn plan. When I say plan in quotes, because it's not a true plan, like a burn plan you would typically think of. It's more of a listing of regulations with some tips and very clear requirements, and then sets of recommendations to help you burn. So in the future, when you fill out your forest practice notification, you'll be getting this plan. That is still at least a year off. So that's not in the very near future. For our airshed group members, so these are state agencies, federal agencies, those industrial forest owners, those are all part of this airshed group. It's a voluntary group, but once they're in the group, they are bound to the daily burn decision that's put out. We have two main seasons. We have spring, and then we have the fall. Spring season one runs like March 1st through the end of May, and then the fall formal season runs 1st of September through the end of November. During that time, all of those burners will put in their daily proposals for the next day. So on a Monday, they are going to put into the system what they hope to burn on Tuesday. Then I come in with my meteorologist. We have 3 meteorologists in the state of Idaho. So when Heather was saying something about weather and she doesn't, I'm like, I also don't know weather that great. I rely on my meteorologist. So with the help of my main meteorologist, Ian, he will write forecasts for all of the airsheds with proposals. So in the Montana Idaho airshed group, there's 12, 13-ish airsheds in Idaho. Because we share it with Idaho, our number started 11. So the whole panhandle, top 5 counties, more or less, they're airshed 11. That's huge. But tippy top of that, up in Bonners Ferry, is not necessarily going to be the same weather as down here, right? So when we say we're writing an airshed for, or a forecast for an airshed, even that gets kind of dicey because the conditions can be so varied, which is when I do also pull up that fire weather dashboard. We're pulling up more individualized tools, and like I will literally look at each burn sometimes in each area to make this decision. I compare all those proposals to the forecast. Then I kind of have this preliminary decision. From an air quality perspective, we have a website. Right now it's called the Open Burning Map. It might be shifting a little in the name, but essentially this map says, you know, it's like a stoplight, red, yellow, green. Green means there's no air quality restrictions in that area. It's by county right now. All burning is fine. Go ahead. So if I've got green everywhere, and Ian's forecast match that, my burn decision for the Montana Idaho Share Group is pretty easy. If we get to yellow, not only is there yellow on our burn map, which would mean that there's likely some county level restrictions in place, maybe yellow meaning air quality is getting poorer, then I need to start limiting or spreading out the sources of the impacts for air quality. So for me, in a burn decision that comes to maybe in, I don't know, a 50 square mile, there's 30 burn proposals. And I have to decide, can that small area handle all 30 of those burn proposals, or do I need to limit a couple of them? And then in this little, the next airshed over, those guys can have some. Even within that area, what I do a lot of is like, okay, Potlatch is trying to burn, IDL is trying to burn, CPTPA is trying to burn, like several offices are trying to burn. I don't want to make any one particular person have no work that next day. So I'll within that try to go, okay, IDL, you guys can burn this one. Potlatch, you guys can burn this one. Or pick which one of these 3 proposals that you have. I think the airshed can only handle one of these 3 proposals. So I try and spread out that, that work a little bit so that everybody should have something to do while also limiting the impacts. If we get all the way to red though, that's when we've put out an air quality advisory. That's when now all that open burning is banned. I can't say yes to any burning with the Montana Idaho Share Group. Tammy can't say yes to any burning with the crop residue. Normal folks who just want to have a campfire in the backyard, you can't do that. So once we get to this point, air quality is real bad. We're into this unhealthy or unhealthy for some groups category. And I'm having to tell the airshed group, no burning. This is still prelim for these 2 levels, for green and yellow. Then I talk with our airshed coordinator for the group. Used to be a guy named Seth. Seth moved on to the Park Service. So now in the interim, we have Paul and Jill. Talk to Paul and Jill, and we can go over all the same stuff on a phone call. And Paul sometimes maybe has extra information to give me, like, I've talked to Potlatch and they actually can't get this one or this one done, so don't worry about that. Or I've talked to IDL and they put in the size of this one, but they can actually only get half of that proposal done because of, you know, resources, et cetera. And it gives me a little more information so that we can finally make a final burn decision. And Paul or Jill, she's covering Montana right now, and Paul's covering Idaho. They can put that out on the website. So if you're part of the airshed group, that's where you're getting a burn decision. If you're not, and you're one of those non-industrial private forest owners though, it's still a really great place to check and see who else in your area might be burning. See what other sources you might be competing with if you yourself are trying to get some burning done. All right, so the making of a go, no-go decision, smoke version, right? This is not land management goals. This is not fire safety. So in the smoke management world, we talk a lot about these basic smoke management principles. There's 6 of them. These are the very technical terms that they put into all of the paperwork. I'm not going to call them these when I'm talking to you guys, but it's evaluating smoke dispersion conditions, essentially weather, monitoring the effects of smoke on the air quality, communication, emission reduction techniques, sharing the airshed, and record keeping. So I'm going to go through all of those, but you won't see those names on my slides. So Heather already talked about this a little bit, checking the weather before you burn. Good mixing height, higher the better. We want the highest mixing height you can get. Some of that is seasonal. I mean, up here in the north, in the fall, you might be pretty happy if you get 2,000 feet of mixing in the fall. And maybe in the spring when we're like, oh, that's terrible. You really should be going for 3,000, 4,000. Like, let's wait a day or 2. But in the fall, that might be the best you're going to get. So you got to go with it. You want a good wind speed, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Too much more than that, and it can actually knock your plume over sideways, and then you're not getting that dispersion. Anything less than that, you know, maybe doesn't disperse as well. Good wind direction. This one is really important. What direction is that smoke going to go when it starts to move? Are you going to blow it into your neighbor's yard? Are you going to blow it right at a hospital, a child care facility, a school, if you're close enough? You know, some of your stuff's not going to matter. It's way out there. You're not going to get anywhere near it. But if you're anywhere in that, you know, WUI area, or you're close into a community, there's very real possibility that you might be impacting your neighbors. I have a very similar little graphic to Heather. This is very colorful. Mine's more smoke looking. That's that mixing height, you know. How high is your mixing height? How much more room does that smoke have to disperse? What's your wind direction? Are you going to blow it towards that hospital? You're going to blow it towards the great beyond where it's not going to impact anyone. This is my little graphic that I made to kind of show you how, as that mixing height comes down, smoke gets more dense, doesn't disperse as well in the area, and the air quality goes from being pretty good, you're getting into that poor air quality. I didn't put numbers on this. I didn't even use the categories of good to hazardous because it's not always going to be hazardous when it's this low. You might have really great wind that's pushing it out, but relatively good to poor. Oh no. Okay, this Ian, my meteorologist, captured from those IDL fire alert cameras they've got all over the state. And this, I believe, this is Oregon. We pulled this one out of Oregon just this was in November. So this was prescribed fire burning, we're pretty sure. But you can see where that inversion layer is. And you can see how that smoke is just hits it. It's like a ceiling. It's dispersing pretty decently side to side, but it's not getting up as high as it could be. These cameras are great to watch stuff around. All right, the second one, monitoring air quality. How smoky is it getting while you're burning? Is it leaving the area? Is it accumulating near your area? If you can, check the nearest monitors. We have an app, the Air Idaho app. It'll pull up all the closest monitors. You can also look at fire.airnow.gov. That pulls in sensors. Does everyone know the difference between like an air quality monitor and an air quality sensor is? Yeah, nobody ever knows that. Monitors are very specialized equipment. They are calibrated. They are maintained by staff, tested regularly, very high quality data for an air quality monitor. Air quality sensors, kind of how Heather was telling you, get that like $200, you know, infrared camera or yeah. An air quality sensor is something anybody can buy, about $200–300. You can put it up at your house and measure the air quality of your house. Problem with that is you don't know where your neighbor put that air quality sensor at. Did he put it next to his barbecue? Did he put it right next to his garage with his equipment in it, and he runs his equipment and it impacts it? So while air quality sensor information can be helpful, especially when we don't have any monitors in the area, we always take that information with a grain of salt because we just don't know where somebody has put their sensor. We also don't know how well they're maintaining those sensors, and they're never being calibrated or tested like an air quality monitor is. So monitors are the best information, but Idaho is a huge state. I think in a minute I might have a map that shows you. But there are very big areas of Idaho that do not have a monitor to cover them. So if you can't check in your air monitor, you need just kind of visibility ends up being your best friend. You saw Heather's pictures of the air quality with the mixing height and lower it gets, you know, how smoky is that area looking? Communication, talk to your neighbors, not just your other neighbors that are burning, but the ones that might be downwind of your smoke. Do you have any folks that are cranky about that kind of thing? I mean, maybe everyone in your little neighborhood is totally cool with it and they understand the need for it, but maybe you have a neighbor who's got some cardiovascular issues, or maybe you've got that school. We recognize that you still need to get that work done, but by talking to your neighbors, letting them know, I plan to do this next week. So you may want to make sure maybe you're not in the area that day, right? Maybe they can go visit, you know, their sister in the next town over, or maybe they've got a, oh, Tammy, what's the word for clean filter fan? So anyone seen those box fans? You can take a box fan and slap like a 1-inch air quality filter on the back of it. And it is as good as any filter. Close all the windows and doors in your room, turn that thing on, it'll clean the air, no problem. Maybe your neighbor has one of those. And during that day that you're burning, they can make sure they're in a clean air room and keeping their health good. Yeah, give them the chance to protect themselves. You know, don't surprise them. This one, emission reduction techniques. Keep your options open. Is there anything else you can do besides burning? Can you do that scattering? Can we do the ACI? We'll talk about the ACIs a little bit. Heather called them air curtain burners. Air curtain incinerators is the word we use. Is there a different season you could do it in? Now, from fire safety standpoint, maybe spring isn't the greatest. From an air quality standpoint, spring is almost always going to be the better air quality season to be doing burning in. We have better mixing heights. There is less competition for that airspace. Weather-wise, of course, we've talked plenty about weather, planing it, covering your piles, removing the cover. All of those are emission reduction techniques. Anything you can do to make less smoke is an emission reduction technique. Sharing the air. Who else is burning your area? Are there farmers? Are your neighbors burning? Is there some industrial burning going on? That's where you'd want to check that Montana Idle Airshed group. With your neighbors, Heather said this out in the field. Can you alternate days? I'll help you, you help me. That way we're not burning on the same day and filling up the airspace. This is a little graphic we made up. It kind of shows you all the competition for pollution in Idaho seasonally. So 2 main seasons for prescribed fire, that's spring and fall. Crop residue tends to fall almost the same as those two. Yeah, I did put wildfire. Wildfire's right on top of Tammy's crop residue, which overlaps a little bit with the prescribed fire. So, this time period, September, October, we've got a lot of competition. RWC, that's residential wood stove combustion. So your wood stove season. So you get into this November, December, and then January, February timeframe, and you got a lot of wood stove smoke in the air. Of course, that's maybe when you're going to be doing your prescribed fire because it's fire safety wise really safe. Stationary sources, that's all year. I mean, that's your mills, all your other industrial sources. That one you're competing with all year long. So you want to try and, if you can, plan it around those or plan it in a time when you're not going to impact others. And then the last basic smoke management practice is record keeping. So I heard a lot today saying, the last 5 times I burned with the twig snapping like this, it did this. My memory is terrible. I wouldn't be able to necessarily remember those conditions, or like Heather said, a lot of it feels like the last time I did this. I would suggest write it down. Just keep a notebook. It doesn't have to be anything formal. I mean, as simple as how well did that burn go? How much burned? What was the weather conditions? How well did the smoke disperse? How well did your twig snap? I mean, it doesn't have to just be smoke stuff. You keep all that stuff, the next season, you've got it all written down and you can remember, oh, yeah, last time the fuel moisture was this and the weather was this direction. Yeah, it didn't go so good. Maybe I'm going to wait a day or two. Record keeping, that's a tough sell usually. So the ultimate question then, we're assuming you don't have a fire safety restriction. We're assuming you don't have an air quality restriction. You've gone through all of your most basic smoke management decisions and you've decided, yes, it is appropriate that I burn tomorrow. Okay? You've considered your alternatives. You've checked the weather. You've notified your neighbors, checked with other people. First thing you want to start with is a test burn. We would really prefer you don't go out there. And if you've got 20 piles, run around in your little machine, light up all 20 at the same time. Start with 1 or 2. See how it's behaving. See how the smoke is going. And if those 1 or 2 are not doing great, you know that this is not a great day to continue burning. Versus you started all 20 and well, now you're kind of stuck and now we just gotta, deal with all that smoke. Even after the test burn, the answer is go. It's still a proceed with caution, right? continue to evaluate those conditions. Adjust further ignitions accordingly. If the wind direction shifts, the wind stops, smoke starts to accumulate, air quality starts to deteriorate. Those are all reasons that if you're able to, we would say to stop ignitions and not continue to burn. And sure, from a fire safety standpoint, there'd be many more pieces you could put onto that for adjusting your ignitions and not doing stuff. So smoke is a difficult one. My contact and Ian's contact. Ian is my meteorologist. Also, by the way, if you guys need to talk to us, like, you can just call Ian and I or email us, and Ian's giving out forecasts all the time. You can call him and just ask for the forecast sometimes. We've got, you know, Boise National Forest, when they were doing a bunch of stuff in Idaho City, which is close to town, and then they did stuff at Bogus Basin, which is right on top of, you know, Boise. They called like every day. Just, you know, Ian had his general forecast, and they just call every day. Okay, what about today? What's it going to look like today? I need to know, you know, more information. We don't mind going through all that stuff. We would rather get you guys good information so that you can burn well. A lot of stuff for you guys. Yeah.
Thank you, Sally. Montana has a system, or last I knew, they had a system where in the morning before I burn, I could check online and it would tell me in my county whether today was a burn day or not.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going there in Idaho, something like that?
Yes and no. So we have the open burn map.
And the app there now, or Air
We have the Air map, the Air Idaho app. Can I get on the internet here? Oh, Tammy, what's our thing? So we have what we call the open burn map. And that is updated daily. And forecast. So we have two pieces to that. One is that there's forecasts for each of these regions. And within a region, there might be 2 or 3 even more specific regions that will give you. So this is going to give you like a 3-day forecast, air quality forecast. If it's green, it's good. You can see down here, outdoor burning, the little flag, no restrictions. At this point in time, we're expecting that there's no restrictions for the next 3 days. We would still suggest you check the morning of your burn just to be totally sure that it hasn't, you know, something hasn't changed overnight. We also have daily. So they'll update it daily for the next three days. Sorry, everyone at the camera, you're probably just getting a real up close view of my face. Forgot them right there. This is the open burning map, county-based. If it'll ever come up. So every county, you know, got a color. That's that stoplight system. When you click on them, they bring up all kinds of information. Some of it is tips on, you know, better burning conditions, things like, you know, put your fire out before sunset, because that's when those inversions come in. We'll trap the smoke. If it had a red, that would be our air quality advisory. They update that each day that they put one out. They are not done the night before. So that air quality forecast page where they're making a prediction for the next couple of days, that's done, but they still might come in the morning and, you know, if conditions have changed overnight, make that decision in the morning. So our rule in Idaho is no new ignition at the point of an air quality advisory being placed. So if you have already started several piles and then you started them at 8 a.m. and at 8 a.m. there was no air quality advisory. And then at 3 p.m. you look and now there's an air quality advisory, you're not in trouble for having piles burning. You started them before the air quality advisory started. But you would then not be allowed to burn anymore, right? Then you wouldn't be able to go, oh, I'm just going to keep burning in like 5 more piles. So our suggestion is always check the morning before you leave to make sure you're in compliance. And then that's about as best you can do, right? Especially when we know that your areas are so far out sometimes from cell service or any kind of internet access, and you're checking before you leave the house, so you're working with the best information you have. We are not going to be in any kind of place where Montana also does I think it's in the winter season, anyone who wants to burn has to physically call in and talk to Aaron, their meteorologist, and get a burn decision. We're not going there, where we don't have the capacity for that kind of thing right now. I'm not even sure that would be several years in the future. That would be a really big undertaking. We do hope to develop some tools that'll have a lot more information to them, a little more do-it-yourself situation, but we're not moving into any kind of situation where every single person who wants to burn in Idaho is going to have to call in and get some kind of burn decision.
So this Air Idaho app.
Yeah.
What does it do? Does it do just what you've showed here? It shows, I can see that it's got the current air quality and it's got restrictions.
So it's basically a combo of these two pieces. So both the Idaho, the open burning map, and then also these 3 days. So I wish I had my, I should have put in other slides that I've got like screenshots. So the Air Idaho app, when you download it for your region. So two pieces of it. You can turn on location services and it will follow you, right? So if you live in Coeur d'Alene, but you often work in St. Mary's, when you move, it follows you. It'll give you whatever's the closest air quality. You can also turn off location services if you want, and then just use the map to, pick the area that's closest to you. But if you're in St. Mary's, it's going to bring up all of your county's information for those 3 days. It's also going to tell you right on that homepage if there's any air quality restrictions. It will also send you like a push notification when we issue an air quality advisory. It would send it right to your phone, pop up on your phone. DEQ has issued an air quality advisory for your area.
I just want to say that you can also sign up for notifications. So if you have land in multiple counties, you can sign up for notifications for Clearwater, Lake Haw, and Nez Perce counties. And then if there's any advisories that are issued at that time, it would give you that push notification from
all of those. Yeah.
So this seems to tell you, answer the question of can you burn, but it doesn't at the moment at least give you insight on whether you should, as far as weather or
no.
Ventilation.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Is that at all in the talking about adding to this?
Apps, not to that, but it is something. Apps are really hard.
Yeah, I want to do everything.
You would not believe how long it took, like years just to make that. And then just to do the tiniest enhancements take a year. So we don't have anything in the works for necessarily updating that app. Tammy and I, pie in the sky, big kind of dreams. We would love to have some sort of map online. You click your location, it's going to bring up fire weather dashboard type information. It's also going to bring up all the air quality information and whether air quality advisories are in place. It's going to bring in all these multiple pieces in one central location. It takes a lot of money. We don't really have the funding for that right now. But it's something we would absolutely love to work on. We would like to make it as easy as possible for people to find all their burning information in one place so they don't have to pop around to several websites.
So y'all remember what I said about like the paddles that you all are, like when you want something like that, then we need to like dig in and move in a direction. That's kind of stuff would be really handy.
Yeah, it really would be.
So the other, to your point of like, is it going to be taking into account of the ventilation or anything else? We are trying to do a move towards using the yellow option. So our conditional option a little bit more, so that if it is a, ventilation or if not going to be great, we're working with our regions to start issuing yellow for those counties. And so hopefully that will start coming across a little bit more. I'm working with the meteorologists.
And with that, the language on that little pop-up box, when you click on that county, will say stuff like ventilation is not great, or I don't think those are the words we use, but air quality conditions are not excellent for burning in this area. If you can, please consider burning on a different day. You know, there will be some kind of language in there. One thing I didn't cover, and Heather didn't cover in her weather piece, is air stagnation events. It's so funny because you said October 20th and magically everything is great, right? We can all burn. I swear to you, every year, last week of October, first week of November, sometime during that 2-week period, there's an air stagnation event, particularly up here in the north. Without fail, the last 5 years, there is a period during there lasting anywhere from 2 to 7 days where we have a terrible air stagnation event. Now, an air stagnation event just means air is stagnant. It's not moving. It's not going anywhere. There's no wind. The mixing height is low. So it's terrible for smoke dispersion conditions. And every year during that little period, it's like, it feels like great. The open burn season now, fire safety stuff is great. And then we have this air stagnation event. And I have to tell all the airshed group members they can't burn. There are times when you have an air stagnation event, and if there are no pollution sources in the air, it doesn't necessarily, an air stagnation event does not necessarily equate to poor air quality, right? We had one in, I think, Boise just this beginning of February where we had an air stagnation event, but we didn't have a lot of pollution sources going on at the time. And so we actually didn't have poor air quality. But during prescribed burning season, you know, an air stagnation is pretty awful for us. So if we have an air stagnation event, that's another piece where we're hoping we're trying to get our regions into putting onto that open burn map, the yellow, give people some idea that that's happening. Yeah.
Pursue the magical state average, and given that smoke doesn't recognize boundaries, is there any concept or conception of how many of that 133,000 tons you're attributing to wildfire every year is imported from
None of it.
north of here?
None of it. So that's all based on fuel burnt in Idaho. So I hear what you're saying. So the actual emissions that are in Idaho from our neighbors.
Seems like our worst days come from up north.
They do. I mean, the further east you are, the more you're getting it from everybody to your west, right? So we get all the Oregon, Washington, California smoke. Montana gets all of our smoke plus their smoke. But those actual emissions numbers are based off of like hotspot detections and acreage reported from the Montana Idaho Airshed Group. So their actual acreage, same thing with the wildfire, that's based off of actual wildfire acreage within Idaho's boundaries. So it doesn't fully account for what we're actually, you know, being impacted by.
And the wildfire would be exceptional events, so it doesn't count for the 9 micrograms?
Yes and no. So wildfire events are really, so exceptional events, for all of you that don't know what exceptional events are, trying to give a real brief. So when we're giving that information to the EPA, right, and they're looking at our data and they're trying to make that determination of whether we're in attainment or non-attainment, there's something called an exceptional event, which basically says if we couldn't control it, so it's natural, right? Not easily controllable, not easily preventable. One other piece to that I'm blanking on. Then we can make a demonstration. It's not as simple as going, there's a wildfire. We don't have to count that data. You have to do a demonstration. Now the demonstrations, EPA is working on making them easier to do. Something is very clear. I mean, it's a wildfire popped up 2 miles outside of town. Obviously that's easy. They call that like a tier 1, I think, where it's so easy to prove. There are lots of exceptional events where maybe that wildfire happened. What did we have? We had one this last year, which was Pinehurst, and it was from all the wildfires, you know, down in Stanley area. That's a long ways to get to Pinehurst, but it probably was impacting their air quality, but it wasn't impacting it to the point of getting over that 35 micrograms, but it was impacting enough that we would have liked to take that data out. And so the demonstration process for that is very long. Like it's, oh my gosh, satellite pictures and air quality data and, you know, polygons and emissions data. And I'm not on the exceptional events team, so I don't know all the pieces, but that's just for a wildfire. For prescribed fire, they are working through the process of making those exceptional events available for prescribed fire. The problem with it is that kind of as the rule is written now, it would really only pertain to broadcast burning. They don't really have a way to do it for pile burning. We're obviously, because the way they've written it is something like, gosh.
And by they, you mean the EPA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, because this is an EPA thing. It's not a DEQ thing, right? That's part of the federal government is in charge of this, state government's in charge of this. So within the exceptional events guidance, the wording is something about essentially land management reasons. So in their opinion, Mary, great. Mary can explain it so much better. Mary, talk, because I'm blanking on the words about land management versus, slash being the main reason you're having to doing the burning, and that's where we've got this disconnect with them.
Yeah, basically, the way the exceptional events rule is written, it really is focused in on broadcast burns for land management activities, not for pile burning after logging. So anything to do with just the typical land management, like if you pile, you thin it and you burn the hand piles that you thinned and then do a broadcast burn, that would qualify. But if you do logging and then you burn the slash from the logging, that does not seem to be covered under the exceptional events rule. We have been working with EPA to really try to get them to agree that slash pile burning can be, because it's for fire safety and reduction of wildfires, as well as logging is too. So we've been working on that. The other criteria is Idaho does not have a certified smoke management plan. So we have to really go into each prescribed burn that we want to do an exceptional event for, and really look to see what basic smoke management practices were used, and do an after action review basically with that burner. And also we have to do, and this would qualify, do training on our most basic smoke management practices as well.
That's why I did all those 6 basic smoke management principles today, because I was trying to make sure we could get that covered.
So it's a lot harder for Idaho to get one approved and get all the documentation needed. I know EPA has come out with one of the press releases to look at exceptional events and how it is for prescribed fire. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But our intent with our work towards our smoke management plan in Idaho is to make exceptional event available for prescribed fire. And that just means not that we can just go ahead and approve a burn and then knowing that it would violate, but things happen. Weather forecasts aren't perfect. Things happen. We want to be able to make sure we do have that available. So that's kind of our intent, one of our main intents for our smoke management program.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So, when we were out in the field today and that forester was talking about, coming in and yes, 10 foresters, what they should do with an area, and they're all going to have a different forest management plan. That forest management plan even is a piece of a prescribed fire demonstration, because you have to prove what did they call it? The natural, because you have to show the fire return interval and some other stuff. So even just that forest management plan needs to be given so that we have proof that there's reasons why you did this, did this work on the piece of land. That record keeping, because we don't have that certified smoke management plan, we would have to have records of all of those basic smoke management principles. Who did you talk to? Of your neighbors or, public officials, what weather did you check? Do you have your forecasts? Did you check air quality? Do you have any proof that you checked air quality? Did you write that down? Did you write down what the beginning air quality and the ending air quality was? All of those pieces would have to be used trying to do a prescribed fire exceptional event. So it's not just as easy as hey, we did one, it went poorly, now take it off of our score,
And who's doing that report?
Us.
Oh.
What if you're a member of the Montana Idaho Airship Group, then does that negate some
need to go through all of those steps because you're already a member of a recognized?
Yes and no. It could definitely be used as part of it. It definitely covers the sharing the air shed. It would help cover the communication piece, the monitoring, not the monitoring for effects afterward, because obviously that would be on you guys, but the evaluating weather conditions. It wouldn't cover that emission reductions technique piece. And of course, record keeping itself. We would have some records, like how much you burned, but we wouldn't necessarily have all of the other records. So, but for all the non-industrial forest folks, that's the other piece is prescribed fire event, exceptional event. Another reason I think why they EPA, in their mind, it's prescribed or broadcast is one big event leads to one big smoke event. Whereas in Idaho, a lot of our problem is 40, 50, 60, 100 guys with land are lighting all these piles off. Well, how do we prove which set of piles it was is the one that caused the event? And if we're going to try and do an exceptional event for this day that 100 people lit piles on, does that mean I'm going to have to get the records from 100 different people lighting their piles and all of the emission reduction, like all of those 6 pieces that each of those 100 people did and put them in, like, that's where there's just, those pieces just haven't been figured out yet. So like Mary said, I saw that press release too that said their EPA is going to try and look into how they can make that easier or more usable. So
I mean, this is like fresh stuff. Like,
yes,
like I just got an email from somebody and they're just like, did you hear about that? Like, I'm talking about it right now.
yeah. And I mean, so I think that press release said something like making exceptional events available for fire. It has been available for, I think, couple years now, but I think they're going to try and work towards making it, yeah, hopefully easier, more usable. Because like Mary said, that piece where it's not really aimed at, you know, just any kind of slash stuff is. Sorry.
I said it's tough when people are in the roads, mostly the east of Indiana, you know.
With you. But when New Jersey and New York start on fire, they start to pay a little more attention. So there might be.
They do. I felt like last year, was it last year, the year before, when all that Canadian smoke hit the East Coast? I felt like they all paid a little more attention, you know, to smoke impacts. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, when the people in the room are not the people in the field, there can be a really big disconnect over, you know, what's needed.
Other questions for Sally? All right, so we're not going to take a break quite yet. We're going to do one more thing. Thank you, Sally. Okay, so we're going to just take a quick look in your bags. Folks that are online, you could go to the Idaho Prescribed Fire Council website, IdahoRxFire.org, and you can look at our resources. So grab the flyer with the beautiful pile on there. And we're going to walk through this so you can follow along this as a framework so you can recognize when you get out and about how you could use this little checklist. Okay.
Hey, Heather.
Yes.
Sorry, this is Melissa. I put a question in directly to you about your presentation. I just wanted to let you know that it's there. But it's not anything you need to answer in the big group format. I was just hoping you could email me or text me back or something on that. I didn't mean to interrupt what you were saying there. I just didn't find a good time before to ask. So, and I didn't want you to miss it.
Which image was that? I wonder. Let's see.
It was the very first slide.
I think in that one, I don't think there was anything on that but we did have an example. We actually were able to go out to this field today and see a pile that was had lots of lovely sticks. On top of them was a bunch of material that was like laminated wood and things. We're talking about how to avoid that. Is this the picture you're talking about?
That was the picture. Yeah. I was just curious looking at the picture because it was kind of hard to see what
so
all the flat stuff in there was.
Cedar shingles from roofs. But I don't know. I was in Washington at that time, so really whatever. What are some thoughts though? Cedar shingles. So this is pulled from a log cabin, and these had lots of nails in them. And here I am in my tennies, my hookahs of all kinds are good, expensive shoes. What was I doing wearing my hookahs out there? I didn't expect to burn. Never go anywhere without your fire boots. That's the story there. So this would be this is a line. This is probably a decent thing to talk about. There's like, at what point does material become human made, right? Is a 2x4. Is that, can we burn that in a pile? Mary, oh yes.
I'm sure she's ready to answer it.
Yes.
So for us in Idaho, anything clean lumber, so 2x4s that have not been treated at all, can be burned, but anything typically from buildings cannot be burned. Like those cedar shingles, I would bet they were, unless they're really, really old, probably can't be burned. Really, for prescribed fire to be eligible under the prescribed fire, it's just natural material. So we do not want anything else in there. And we do have on our website a list of prohibited materials, what you can and cannot burn. So that would be a good website, I think, maybe Sally or Tammy to show them, because it goes into detail and examples for that, exactly what's allowed to be burned.
What about pallets? Is that like this is, so pallets are, they look clean though, right? They look, but they're treated with stuff. And these wood shingles, I have no idea. I mean, it was from a house that was probably 100 years old, so likely that they were old enough to not have anything on them, but I don't know. I didn't even ask, right? I'm not there to know if we would have known anyway. But it's a good question, because it's one thing to say, like, don't burn a tire. Everyone's like, yeah, sure, I won't burn tires. That's easy to follow that. Don't burn like pressure treated wood. Okay, I can get behind that too. I can see the little slits. It's clear. Don't burn composite wood. That's pretty clear too. But there is a bunch of gray area here. Like we already talked about, stumps are challenging, because what else do you do with them? Do we expect people to do nothing with them? And so this is why rules are challenging, because rules are, when you set a rule, sometimes if the rules are too restrictive, people just blow them off altogether. So they have to make sense also. And if they don't, if there are rules that need to be held to, then there also have to be alternatives so that people can actually meet their objectives, which is a challenging thing. So in this case, I don't know, there probably was materials in there other than, I mean, yeah, all material certainly was shingles in this particular instance, but you can see why it's like challenging to get these things done. It's like, well, I don't want to pick up a whole bunch of like old shingles with a bunch of nails in them and go cart them off somewhere. This is in the middle of nowhere, so I'm gonna burn it. But am I gonna expose myself to more particulate matter than that? Very well likely, it's possible. So it's a good question. Any other thoughts on that line that's in there? It's a good idea to go check out that list of things that are like on the list of burnable, not burnable. We've got some general categories in here, like looking again at this, yeah, I can see myself, I can't, but we got our this is the before you burn flyer here. And on the back side here, can I burn, should I burn? So we have some listed here. So like Sally broke down, can I burn? Always the first question. Because if you can't, then you don't have to worry about the should, because you can't, so no worries there. So burn anything other than a recreational campfire. If you are, this is the list for you. So if you're doing a recreational campfire, there's still some restrictions. You don't want to be crazy. And like we said, when there's an air quality advisory, then you can't. Are you inside city limits? If you are, then contact the local fire department. If you're burning crop residue, go to permit from Idaho DEQ. So crop residue is different than forest practices and even rangeland practices. So there's a difference there between crop residue and burning natural material. Do you have any distinction, Tammy, with that on like when someone's burning, it feels maybe obvious that it's crop residue versus, I don't know, broadcast burning, but where is that line?
So anything that's left in the field after harvest.
After harvest. Okay. Okay. What if I just harvested some trees? Is that a crop residue? I'm just trees are kind of like a Okay, so if you're not sure, then check. Burning yard waste, forest, shrub and debris, getting a permit from the from IDL, from your state agency. If you're burning anything else, construction waste, trash, etc., don't burn. Unless you're Washington, apparently. Just kidding. Okay, so now once you've established can I burn, then this question of should I burn? Okay, so should I burn? Always thinking about your barriers or control lines. Wet can be a control line. Snow can be a control line, but those things go away, just to be clear. They do come and go. Resources. Who do you have to help you control them? Tomorrow we are going to be talking about PBAs, Prescribed Burns Associations. We need resources to help us do this stuff. For lighting and controlling, it's easy to light, much harder to control. Plan, what's your strategy for controlling and lighting? We'll talk about plans on Wednesday morning. I've got some draft burn plan templates for private landowners. Burn plans are often, at least maybe for me or whatever, but they're just viewed as like a thing you have to do, but they're just a very good idea. Submit and follow burn permit when required. Okay, and then, so you're making a plan. Next step 2, you're checking the weather. On Airshed, you're going to weather.gov. Is it a good day, burn day? What's the weather after? What could the fire do? Watching it several weeks before to see the patterns. Like I mentioned, I noticed that I've established this pattern of recognizing that when there's wind and rain in the forecast, the wind always seems to come and the rain only sometimes comes. And I know that. That means when I'm not going to be as tricked. When I look at a forecast in the future and I see rain, I'm not going to fall for that one like I did last time or whatever. Okay, contact. When you've planned and prepared your area, the weather looks good and you're ready to burn. Now you can make some contacts. Now, ideally in your plan, you've also contacted some people. We don't want to surprise neighbors and be like, hey, by the way, I'm going to burn that pile that's on my property right next to your shop. Like, make contacts with people that are going to be potentially impacted. If you know you've got a neighbor that has some respiratory issues, make those contacts. Okay, so local fire authority. If there's going to be someone that could get called because of your fire, it's a good idea to preemptively let them know. I don't like to surprise people as much as I can with fire. So that would be, like, I called dispatch. I called the non-emergent line so that they can say, hey, I'm going to have some smoke going on over here. If you get called, this is like, I'm there. They can contact you and then that dispatch can direct that instead of it being a surprise. Contacting your local, like your city or your rural fire department, letting them know, hey, invite them out. Like, this is what we'd like to kind of see happening more often, is people getting invited to these things, doing it collectively. Public lands, contacting different offices, and of course your neighbors. So step 4 is know how to stop. If conditions are not right, do not light. I know I'm not a poet, but this is funny. If conditions change your plan. Call for help before help comes to you. And this is very important. Last one, a big stop sign there. Anyone starting a fire is responsible for that fire until it's out. You light it, it's yours. You own it. So own it. So when you start those fires, make sure that you are responsible. And that includes delegating that. You don't delegate that authority beyond it, but you make a plan for if you have to go, make sure someone else is watching it. So that's our can I burn, should I burn framework. Any questions on that? This stuff's a ton to remember, so have a checklist. Kind of watch that. Okay, so let's take a break. The last bit of our day is going to be when piles escape and how to avoid it. Let's take 15, so we'll come back at 20 after.